Let's set up our Prusa slicer so it works with our 3D printers. As I said at the beginning, you might be used to a different slicer or your 3D printer is not compatible with Prusa slicer. In this module, we will explore how you can set up your 3D printer in Prusa slicer. Prusa slicer is an open source software, which means that the community is also allowed to give suggestions to Prusa research and build different plugins and add-ons for the software. What it means for us is that there are many pre-prepared settings for different printers from different brands than just Prusa Research. So you don't have to own a Prusa printer in order to slice your 3D objects or 3D designs in Prusa Slicer. We have three options how to set up our printers. Either we are using a Prusa printer or we are using a printer from a vendor that is automatically available in the Prusa slicer, or we can try to set up our printers manually in Prusa slicer. I have a small disclaimer for you. You might not be able to set up your printer in Prusa slicer, and if that's your case, please feel free to use your slicer. As I said at the beginning, I'm going to explain everything in general matters so you can switch from one slicer to another and one printer to another if it's needed. The reason why you might not be possible to add your printer into Prusa slicer is because Prusa slicer has a set number of firmware that are compatible with the Prusa slicer, and the firmware is basically the software that provides control to the 3D printer's components. So if your firmware on your 3D printer is different from the ones that are here available for the Prusa slicer, you might not be able to add your printer. In that case, please use your slicer that you are used to using. It's not an issue. It's perfectly fine to follow along the course even without Prusa slicer. I'll show you the three ways how you can add your printer. First, let's start with Prusa printers. So if you are a user or owner of the Prusa printer, the easiest way how you can add your printer is through configuration wizard. So we are going to navigate in the top bar, click on configuration, and click on Configuration Assistant. We will see the screen that will pop up that will welcome us into the Configuration Assistant. And Configuration Assistant is basically just a space, a place where we can configure our printers, our use materials, and how we want the choices that we want to have available in our Prusa slicer. If you want to, you can create your profile on Prusa Research. It's completely optional, not necessary. We are going to skip also the configuration sources because we are always online, and we are going to choose, in case we have a Prusa printer, the printers that we are going to be using, that we want to be available in our slicer as a choice, as an option. So let's say we have the Prusa Mini. I'm gonna choose here original Prusa Mini with the nozzle. It's also very important for you to know which nozzle you have, what is the diameter of your nozzle, because different printers have different diameters, but in general I would say that most printers, the standard is 0.4 nozzle. Some printers like Ultimaker might have a different nozzle set by default, but I would say that in general 0.4 is the most standard diameter of the nozzle. Unless you haven't done any changes, then the 0.4 nozzle should work for you as a setup. I'm going to say that I only have a Prusa Mini. Then I'm going to move to check if I also want to add an option for SLA printers from the resin printers. But I don't have a resin printer, so I'm going to say, oh no, I don't need the resin printer in here. And then I'm going to click on other vendors. We are not going to go through other vendors now because I just want to add the Prusa Research printer. Other SLA custom printer, and then I can choose the filaments that I'll be printing. So let's say I'll be printing from PLA, or maybe let's check flexible filaments, and I'm gonna print from NinjaTech TPU, or Ninja Flex would be better. We cannot find the Recreus or Beyond Plastic on the official list of provided filaments. It's not a problem. We can just click here on Flex and check all and we are going to click already had it set up and look for the generic flex. Now I'm gonna move to updates, downloads. I don't want to reload anything, view anything, and then I'm going to click on finish. So you will see that your build plate will change according to the 3D printer that you are going to set up. That's how you know that you have done a good work. So the original Prusa Mini is now set up with the build plate, with the look it should have. If I click here on the printer, just to make sure that everything is correct, I have my filament set to generic flex. And if I check here the printer, then I have Prusa Mini set. Perfect. Now we are all set for us if we're printing for Prusa printer. Let's have a look how we can set up the Prusa slicer for printers from other vendors.